forward to having this panel discussion. We'll be talking about managing workflow in the digital age. And I couldn't think of two better guys to talk with than these two, because been with us for a long time, been digital for a long time, and kind of have seen that evolution. Let me ask you this. Let's start out like this. Adam, I'll start with you. What were you doing to manage your workflow before Auto Vitals?
All right, just making sure you can hear me through my computer or through my audio. Okay, perfect.
Great, buddy.
So
you're sitting next to me. No.
So as far as managing our workflow prior to Auto Vitals, it was paperwork orders, paper inspections. We changed that to a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet inspection that the guys could do through the computer. That helped a ton. And what we saw in the efficiency and the clear-cut communication for our customers was much better than what we had before in terms of just handwritten notes and different things like that. So that was a huge improvement for us, going from paperwork orders to then the digital process.
Yeah. So you're doing the clipboard shuffle, and then you evolve to spreadsheets and you know, I guess whiteboards, the limit of that technology. And now and I'm sure, and so what's been that result for you, being able to take it to the level of insight that your today's vehicle page gives you from a workflow perspective?
The result in terms of, are you mainly asking for like numbers wise, or just all the flow?
If you'd like to share.
Sure. Yeah. So I made quite a few notes for today's visit, so we can dive into that as much as you want to, and obviously share Neil's opinions and everything too. But what I felt like last week in talking with everybody was kind of a snippet of information, and then more so one to kind of dive into it once we had today's session. So as far as numbers wise goes, you know, Uwe had talked about how our growth was from like that $600,000 to $700,000 in sales growth to $2 million, and that was mainly predicated off of what we're doing with the digital portion of it. But in doing so, just the team members that we have either made changes with or what have you over the years, which every company goes through. So if you're a company that's having turnover, we're doing $2 million in sales, and we're no different. You know, it just happens. That's what's going on in today's day and age. But that change, every part of the way, we always tried to improve upon that next best service advisor, or that next best technician, or hey, maybe we have 2 general service techs that are doing all these inspections, but then what does our workload really determine that we should have? Should we have 2 general service techs, or should we have like, you know, 2 A techs and maybe just 1 general service tech? So it was really like looking at our business and saying, not going off of like the industry standard that says you have to have X, Y, and Z. Maybe we're a little bit of A, maybe we're a little bit of M, maybe there's a N and a Q in there, or what have you, but just not that cookie cutter industry standard that says you have to have this team in place. So for us, what our evolution was instead of having that A, B, and C tech, literally A tech, B tech, C tech, we turned it into 3 A techs and 1 C tech, and that's what our shop and our workload tells us what we need to do. We know we have 6 to 8 oil changes a day. Some are waiters, some aren't, and we know that our C-level tech, Andy, who in my opinion his heart is a A-level tech, but just that's his position within the company, is he's the guy that takes care of our customers that are there for those waiting oil change appointments and everything. And basically, like, that was his position. And the rest of the guys, we know we have a certain level of diagnostics every day, which then we still do an inspection off and sell work off of that. So it was really like looking at what is our customer demand and what do they need. We aren't an oil change shop, so why would we have that many general service techs? So that was a big thing, was yes, switching to digital, but then also to looking at what our customer demand was.
Yeah, and adapting, right? And that's brilliant. I mean, you know, we were talking about that in a session earlier, is really matching up the right person. And we had Kevin Allen actually in from ATI, and he was talking about even personality profiles, taking it to that level. And you match them up with the proper role for what you need in your operation, and then you just get out of the way and let them execute. How about you, Neil? What were you doing before Auto Vitals from a workflow management perspective?
Yeah, we did the clipboards as well. I miss a couple items from that, and something, like it used to be that you could hand a clipboard and I'd write really big when I needed that clipboard back with the job done, or when I needed an update, and then I'd circle it in a highlighter. And it was just crazy obvious when I was supposed to have that time. There was a while when you're just like, we're going digital, and then you just like do it, and then you realize how many things you missed, and you're like, whoa, we just stopped doing this because we didn't adapt to it and create another process when we did it digitally. So now we use special tiles for that. So, if we need an update or some kind of ETA or something that I would normally hand write on a ticket, we have a special tile made for that. And then we had to adapt to kind of like the hot potato, where it's just like, you got the clipboard, you're doing it. Sometimes a job will get done and the tile won't get dragged because we asked our guys to drag the tiles or to message or, something official. Sometimes I really got to keep an eye on when my cars are done. And if they're still waiting and work to be finished, but the car's out front, it's like, oh, I got to keep an eye on that. And that is something I miss about the clipboards actually, but it's definitely way better. And where it really shines in our shop is we have an estimator. So as soon as the car is done getting inspected, it immediately gets dragged over to creating estimate. And his job all day long is just to make sure that his column for creating estimate and column for ordering parts is empty. And he's probably the best at it. And it just simplifies his role for him.
No, that's fantastic. That's exactly the expectation, right? Is that if you can boil it down to that, you just put, and we were talking about it in the last session, right? Is to say, even taking it to as far as some guys are putting that estimator out in a room, right, away from the counter where they can focus, right? And it's exactly like you said. I just move them from here to there and get them off my plate. And as I do that, I'm taking the information from those technicians, and if I keep referencing Kevin Allen, man, I'm just happy to have the guy on. But Kevin says, it was a great for ATI. Jeff Berman they're doing a series, and it's called Story Seller, right? You're not a storyteller, you're a story seller. And that's really what, from a digital perspective, if you think about it, is we're going to take that information from the text, and sometimes a lot of it is very technical, and we want to get them, following some protocols to really use some layman's terms and explain it to the customer, because it helps the service writer or the estimator get their end done. But really, it's taking that and setting up that inspection result to tell a story. And a lot of times it's through pictures and videos, less text. And because that's just kind of how we've adapted to consume information. And if you can hit that, the results are incredible, because you have so much higher efficiency and throughput, but you have at the same time a much more detailed and customer, effective inspection result that you're sending out. And that really is, I think the kind of the best of both worlds. It's just not every operation is set up to do it. Maybe physically, maybe from a process perspective, maybe from a head count, you just don't have the resources. If you're looking to go that route, Neil, what would you say to somebody who wants to do that? But maybe they think, well, I'm not Neil Daly. Maybe they think you're doing, 50 cars a day and you need something like that. What would you say to those folks that are on the fence? How do you get them to consider making that change in their business so that they can achieve those same results?
Just like so going from paper to digital, you can't really lose a clipboard, which is nice, because the tiles usually don't disappear.
If the power goes off, the clipboard doesn't disappear. Weird.
Or more importantly is, we have a process where if it's not written down, it didn't happen. And when we had clipboards, it was the same thing. If this car drained metal instead of oil, it's got to get written down. And what I like about the digital process is that note can't not make it to the customer, because it's being written on my inspection on the work order. Whereas on the clipboard, I could be like, oh, cool, got that oil change done, great. and the note can die with the clipboard. So
Yep.
I really like that all the information is transparent, sometimes too much. Like we have our text, right, their comments right on the customer view. So we do gotta, edit it here and there, but it's just super transparent.
Yeah, would you agree, Adam? I mean, is that working out kind of the same way for you when you made that transition?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's really the whole package of like everything digital wise is even down to alerts and such. We are very similar to Neil with that estimator. We call it that production manager role, like we talked about the other day. And it even comes down to just having alerts set up properly so that they know the phases of where the technician is within the job. So, and I'm not talking about just marking a job as 100% completed or 50% completed. I'm talking about on your inspection sheet having little categories and topics that are, the condition says, thank you for bringing your vehicle in today. And that indicates the point and the progress that they are in their inspection. We have a level 1 and we have a level 2 inspection. And by setting up those alerts and those recommended actions, it's just kind of us making the inspection work for us in terms of maybe not everything is set up exactly how we want it through Auto Vitals. There's definitely a great progression of how much better it's become. But having like those little conditions that set up an alert that says you're at this point, now the production manager can start estimating portion of the work. We can slide it over in a phase that the technician's not going to see that work is approved, and you can start building the estimate that way. So now all it really does is it creates this. Think about Andy for an oil change, for instance. If he's spending 15 minutes on his initial courtesy check, and now there's an alert that comes up that says, thank you for coming in for service, we know that Nick can start estimating that work. And then if that customer is waiting up front, while Andy's doing the oil change portion of it, John, our service advisor, is then talking to the customer and going through it so that at the point at which Andy is done with the oil change, if there's an air filter or a bulb or this or that was out, John will probably have approval at the point in which Andy's done with it. And now he says, hey, by the way, go and do that tire rotate, go and do that light bulb, go and do that air filter, whatever. By the way, the parts are already ordered. If they aren't here, they should be here pretty quickly. So all of those little pieces of the possible production scale worksheet that I keep are so undeniably important, for sure.
Adam, how do you set up those alerts that you're talking about?
Yeah, so it's in the settings within Auto Vitals. What we end up going through is on the inspection setup is there's a condition, like a topic that we have is inspection completed. That's just the name of the topic. The condition is thank you for coming in today is the condition that's preset shows once they go to that. And then that makes the recommended action of, I believe it's thank you for coming in today is the message that's on the recommended action. So it kind of makes it look like we are making a recommended action when it's really not. It's just a point in progress on that inspection, but it's the last thing in the inspection so that we know that they're done with that portion. I totally understand that the technician could go through there and submit that, and then that would create an alert too. However, you kind of have to back out of the inspection to do so, submit the alert, and then go back in your tablet in that moment in time. So even if that's 15 seconds or 10 seconds, I feel it's valuable and it's more efficient for them to just click on that because they're already in the inspection. So it's all through the inspection settings to adjust that.
I've seen the setting you're talking about. So you're creating like a coded message within your team that, anytime that topic is clicked, they're like, oh, cool, I have something to do here. That's really good.
Yeah. Yep. And we have various ones throughout the way. Cause I think about like air filters is we stock a ton of them, but we definitely don't stock 2,000 vehicles worth of air filters. I think we have the top 50 numbers and everything like that. And when it comes down to that portion of the air filters and such, we have a preset alert that comes up there that says technician marked air filter dirty. So now the estimator or the production manager can look, is that one that we stock or not? It is. Okay, I know if we get approval that I don't need to order this part. Or maybe he says, I know this customer, they typically spend $200-300 every single time they come in here on average. I know they're going to do the air filter, and then they pre-order it, so it's already on its way, even maybe before John sells it. So like having those alerts set up along the way gives them the opportunity to track the progress without physically walking back there to do so. Before digital age and auto vitals, and before even they had the alerts for recommended actions, I was walking back there to say, how far are you? How does the air filter look? Are you done with the inspection? Can I grab the inspection from you? And I don't want to sit there and micromanage their inspection by any means, which it probably came across as I was doing so. It was just more so to check that progress, because I know that the buying decision of that customer, if they're looking and thinking about, I've been here for 45 minutes or close to an hour, they're going to buy an air filter. But if I've talked to them within 20 minutes, they're going to think, well, you're done with it already? Wow, this is amazing service. Yeah, let's go ahead and buy that air filter. So it's just that perception of like staying on top of what I feel is important.
Super good. I love it.
And then do you because I think from a process development perspective, creating the muscle memory and making sure that there's consistent application and execution, I think the more that you tie to those workflow steps, the more it forces the team to follow the protocol. Yeah. And so in order to send out that notification, I have to move this tile. If I don't, I'm not doing my job. Because initially when we first started out, you would see a lot of these one workflow move shops, right? And they would just leave it all stacked up in appointments and then move it over to pickup, right? And there, all the jobs get completed in a blink of an eye. I mean, this guy's, 10,000% efficiency, and just these crazy, it just screws all the metrics up, right? And so we really started looking at ways to where we can add additional value and reasons, really, why you move the vehicle through. And that's really was kind of the first step. It was the training wheels that we had to, implement just to get people to consider the value of these workflow stages. Now, as we're able to add in more functionality around them, automations and notifications and things like that, we're really, it's promising to hear feedback from guys like you where you're saying, hey, we actually need more functionality built in, and here's why, and here's what we would do with it, and here's how it's going to benefit my business. Because we're all ears to that stuff. And we really think that it's a game changer, because as we were, I was talking with Stacy Diaz a little bit ago, and we were saying, how, you can be a victim of your success, right? You sell too much, but you don't have the processes in the workflow in place to manage it. Then what happens? Well, then chaos and drop balls and pissed off customers. And there you go. You just created a big fire in the middle of the shop, But if you have the process down, you can maintain those high sales. Adam?
Tom, what is too much though? Realistically, for shops to really sit down, what is too much? What is your sales? What is your expectations? What's your average labor dollars per work order and everything like that? How much work are you estimating? How much work is your service advisor selling? All those things are just such a big piece of it that says, God, we sold $10,000 worth of work these last couple days. That seems like a lot. Is it really? For sure. Is it your max potential? Have you sat down and I'm a big numbers guy, and everybody at our shop at some point in time, whether they care to admit it or not, has been annoyed with numbers and Excel spreadsheets and stuff like that. So I literally have probably 12 different calculators, 20 different calculators of here's what I think an ATEC can do. And not every ATEC is created equal. Just because, what defines an ATEC? Is it they can crank out 70 hours a week? No, it's what kind of jobs can they do? They're the diagnostic guys that can do everything. Just because one ATEC produces 55 hours and the other one produces 70 does not define them as an ATEC or not. And I think that's important to look at in terms of your possible production. But I think there's a certain, when I was at a Vision conference, I was in a class where the presenter said that your tech should be able to produce $30,000 in labor sales a month. And then I looked at that and I'm like, I have a 50-50 parts and labor mix. So that means I should produce, every one of our techs should produce $60,000 a month in sales. And then I looked and I'm like, is that what our team is doing? Is that number high? Is that number low? And I think that really, when you break down that part of it, of your possible production as a team, then you can start saying, now this much work is too much, or this much work is too little. How efficient are we in doing so?
Yeah, that's brilliant. I mean, that's you hit the nail right on the head, right? The answer is in the numbers. You have to find your capacity. You're not going to know your capacity unless you look at your numbers, not some industry standard, not some pie in the sky or wishful thinking. You have to look at your numbers, and then you have to say, are my numbers? And this is where you can collaborate, right? Now you can start to ask somebody else what theirs looks like, and you go, oh, I got some room to make up. How are they doing these things? And you'll uncover the inefficiencies as you go through and find those bottlenecks in your process and be able to make process change and protocols in place to overcome those, and then just measure it. Is it having the desired effect? If not, roll the sleeves back up and get back to work. Or if yes, crank that throttle open and get her done. Neil, how are you diagnosing those types of situations in your operation?
So yeah, first knowing your budget for, how many labor units is how we manage that. We of course manage the dollars that are tied to them, but the real foundation of that is labor production units. So, and it's pretty simple for us because we do about 8 per day per tech is what our expectation is, and that's what we budget to. We use Google Calendar to manage that. And I kind of wanted to show that. I'm pretty sure I can share my screen.
Yeah, you sure can.
Which I'm going to do right now. There we go. And I can't see the tab. There it is. Perfect. So it looks kind of chaotic from my view because you see all the colors. But each technician has their own color. And it's good if their full day is full, because that means, cool, I've budgeted a full day's worth of work for them. And we do it for one unit is an hour. And whatever the book time is on a job, that's what we schedule for. So usually if a tech gets it done faster, that's great. We'll just move on to the next one. But we got into trouble when we were like, oh, this guy can rock this 8-hour job in 4 hours, and then we'd only schedule 4 hours for him.
Yeah.
It wouldn't leave any room. And then you're just snowballing your week, pushing one job, to the next. And right now we're pretty fully booked, so we're scheduling to a 7-hour day. So we leave a little bit of extra room because, like, if you have a fully booked schedule and then you sell that break job, you're like, oh, we can't do it now. So that's just kind of our process. Everybody knows. And what's cool is, like, let's say, this is Arturo. If he ran into a snag and we had to push this job off, now it's super apparent that tomorrow we have a problem because they're overlapping. And we really try not to keep them overlapping, but at least we have all the info there, and then we can assign jobs differently if we need. And that's kind of my tool for budgeting, and one, to make sure we're not overloading techs, but also to make sure we're fully loading them up. It's that balance where we've all been on both sides of that, and it can be stressful in different ways.
No, that's fantastic.
With your calendar, have you looked into, this is crazy that we do the exact same thing. We have a Google scheduler as well that we use. And I created a email address for every technician and every service advisor so that you don't have those overlapping colors. They're all in their own column. I could share my screen, but basically we do the same thing as what Neil is doing. And then it's not by day and by color. It comes down to that it's all like one column that says, here's Ryan, here's Ronnie, here's Andy. We actually color code them by a black appointment is just an appointment that Google allows you to put on there, and then you can change the color. And then green means go. So it starts off as black. We have notes on there, drop off at 8 o'clock. Once it's here, green means go. These guys have this same calendar on their tablet, so then they know the vehicle arrived. Obviously, they get the alert from Auto Vitals as well, but it's just like that at a glance, how does our scheduler look today? Is there any overlapping appointments whatsoever? That's what we use as that as well. We mark our waiters in yellow if they're a scheduled waiter. Once it's here, red's immediate. We take care of it as an immediate concern because now the vehicle's here, and that just helps us communicate the expected schedule for the day.
I would love to see that. That sounds like the next level of this. That's really cool. I have one thing that we just started doing on Monday before I stopped sharing. We started adding this asterisk if it's a flexible timeline. So this job is actually on a loaner car that we just purchased. And if our advisor sells something that is dollars, I would so much rather than put that in front of my loaner car. So this is just communication between me and her that if it's got an asterisk on it, it means you're free to bump it. Otherwise, don't touch my jobs without talking to me. That's kind of what you have to establish what the rules are.
That's a good rule. That's a good rule.
But yeah, this tool has been totally necessary. Even though it's work, it saves a lot for everybody. And then in the morning meeting, you see that scheduled every single morning. Everybody comes with their tablet, the calendar's on it, and then they basically present their day to us, each technician. And then we say, hey, is that realistic? Do you have all your parts? Have you opened all the boxes to the parts? You've looked over the whole RO. So we really get a good view of how it's going to go before it's just, like, what's my next ticket? And then that's the first time they see it. We try to get, a lot of advance notice on that stuff.
Do you find that your techs look at that scheduler and say, hey, I got a waiting oil change appointment. It's for a 2015 Ford F-150. I know the oil filter is going to be a R1372 or whatever it might be, and I'm going to need such and such oil and stuff. They start prepping their appointments before the vehicle even gets there.
That would be super cool. I think our parts manager does more of that than they do. And he'll kind of bring in the parts ahead of time. Yeah.
Yep.
It's valuable for too, is we really try to limit interruptions to them. By appointments tomorrow, you can't really tell that we do it, but I try to make if I can give one big job per tech, but then I give them like a waiter oil service first thing in the morning, and then maybe one at 1 o'clock. That's when we try, because one is going to be right after lunch. So you're already stopped in a job and you can kind of change your focus for a second to do an inspection and oil change on a car. But it's not like I'm pulling you off a water pump job to do the oil service. We really try to schedule so that they're not getting interrupted on jobs. Yep.
That totally makes sense. For sure. Yeah. Part of the reason why I brought that up there is especially like Andy and the rest of the guys, they actually look at this scheduler the day before and just prep. Okay, mentally prep 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, whatever those appointments might be. They got their tools out and ready to go. And for any shops that are out there and saying it's hard to create that shop's culture of getting everybody on that same page, you're damn right it is. It is without a doubt. It's very difficult. But at the same time, it starts at the top. That leadership has to say this is how we're going to do it. You respect everybody's input and everything like that. Nick, has just as much input on this stuff as I do. So does John. So does Andy. All these guys, we accept everybody's input and we collectively come up with a best way of doing things together. And then we all stick to it, because you're only as good as your weakest link. And if there's one link that's out there not doing it, that affects everybody. So we really try to make everybody get on the same page. And when you start with that leadership, and then it trickles down to everybody within the shop, you're almost the odd man out if you don't do what everybody else is doing. So it almost not to say it forces you, but it almost forces you to comply to the shop culture. Otherwise, you're just not a fit for that shop, and so be it. But it's really been great to see how people have adapted to this level of scheduling.
Well, and it's like you said, because then you can start to find some problems and fix them before they become critical.
Yeah.
And I know, and I think both of you guys have been pretty active. We've been kicking it around in the Facebook forum for what, almost going on 2 years now is the scheduler, and how can Auto Vitals, because a lot of companies have been out there and tried it, and it's just, the reason that there isn't a good one is because it's hard to do, because it has to be so flexible, and it's got to build some AI in there to think in terms of, what buffers and what kind of what mishaps can happen and how do we overcome them, instead of just so, structured, because then you just have conflicts and it becomes unworkable. But if you can get the team in there and having it on the tablet and being able, because we do the same thing here, end of the day, you're looking at tomorrow and you're getting everything ready for tomorrow and you're prepped. So when we come in, we hit the door working. We don't then spend, 15, 20 minutes figuring out what we're going to do on the day. We come to work to work. And if you can do that, man, does that really pay off for you at the end, end of the period, end of the quarter? You really put that money right back into sold hours.
I don't know how you're controlling this. Can you still not see my screen though? Like, is that?
Yeah, I see.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I want to show one more thing. It's like slightly off topic, but it's something so cool that we've added that it has been really interactive with customers. We made an intro video for our inspection.
Awesome.
Where it explains our terminology and how we rate things. So, we use the stages for how bad an oil leak is and how bad a bushing is. And a lot of times people will kind of laugh, or they'd be like, what does this mean? Like stage 2 leak? What is that out of? Stage 2 out of 10? Or so we've actually had a ton of people watching that. And just today we made a video on the different things we're doing for cleaning cars and everything. And that's going to be on the top now. And then we're going to add another one with a true cost to own video. So it basically gives them a big welcome and a ton of content and a lot more engagement on the inspection, which I thought was super cool we were able to do.
Oh, that's brilliant. I mean, the COVID stuff, I mean, that goes without saying, right? Is and it was like what I was saying earlier, it was great. First thing front and center is pictures of the tech, and they're actually with the seat covers and the steering wheel covers and the gloves and the mask and he's sanitizing. Have that image. Yeah, buddy.
That should be
have that as your
here.
Yeah.
Actually.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
We're going to change that.
It would be awesome. Yo, I'm ready for you. Right. And that's the first impact, because that's going to stick. But having that true cost of ownership, I mean, what a great idea, because then you can go through, especially for the folks that are running a lot of fleet stuff and you're kind of hesitant to send out your inspection sheets to them fleet managers because whatever, man, that's a good one for you, because that's the kind of the question they're weighing is, do we replace or do we maintain? And the maintain is going to put the money in your pocket, unless you're a car dealer also.
For sure. For sure. Could I jump on the screen sharing bandwagon? I don't know how to do it per se, but I'll give her hell.
I don't know how to stop.
Yeah, there's a deal. It's just says stop sharing. Yeah, there you go.
All right.
That was awesome stuff right there, man. I'm sure you got wheels spinning right now. I can hear them.
For sure. I love all that stuff. Actually, when I talked the other day about pages and pages of notes and everything, I've taken a few things that Neil said today just in this discussion and wrote down COVID-19 video and those types of things that you have on the inspection. I think that's great stuff. And I'm in this teleconference, I'm taking notes. So hopefully other people are doing the same thing as well. But what I wanted to share is our possible production worksheet. You guys can see this, I believe, correct?
Oh yeah.
So this is a calculator. If anybody wants it, after you take a peek at it, send me a personal message. I have no problem sharing it, but it's evolved over the years. And basically what I ended up doing is saying like the ABC tech role and then effective labor rate goals for each individual one. And then you put your shop in here as far as like what you have, names of the client, and there's a drop down. If you want to call Ryan a B tech, now his effective labor rate goal is $95. If he's an A tech, it's $110. Our base labor rate is $114.98. And what this ends up doing is it creates, I'll go through it quickly, it just creates an expected labor dollars that they should turn. You can put in your parts and labor mix of however you want. Our shop, it's 50%. And then you can create a total weekly sales based off those numbers goal. And that's what when I talk about possible production, this is what I feel our possible production is for the week. We can go above this. We certainly can go below that for sure. But I think based off of that team on average, that's what we're going to try for. And then we have work days per week. We're open Monday through Friday. We have 52 weeks a year. That creates total work days in a year of 260. But wait, you can't say 260 because Ryan's going to have vacation or Ronnie's going to have vacation. How many paid holidays do you have? How much PTO allowance do you have? And now here's your actual work days that they're available. So whatever this goal is, you probably can only anticipate 92% of it or whatever it might be. And I think a lot of shops maybe don't break it down in the numbers to give yourself a goal. So our $2 million last year, I can tell you our effective labor rate last year was $97. Our ARO was $460. And what I've tried to make for a goal this year is let's try to make it 105. Maybe we hit 100 and maybe we're 2.1 million, but I want to try to make it like 2.2 and put a realistic goal out there that we can hit. Things like what Neil shared with the videos and everything like that stuff is phenomenal. And I'm for sure going to do some of it just based off of what he had showed me. And all those little pieces are what comes down to what can your team do at a max. I'll stop to share again.
Well, that's an awesome spreadsheet. We didn't do it as in depth as that. We did it on a weekly rate. We basically created like, what does it look like when we're 100% productive with our techs? And then that's what our goal was, a realistic production goal. And then I made sure we use like the ATI portal for tracking all that stuff. And I made sure the goal numbers in that matched what our actual goals were. So you have realistic numbers to work with. That's a super great spreadsheet. I'm like, didn't used to be a numbers guy. And now I love it.
You can drive yourself nuts over it for sure. You know, just looking at the numbers, it's like, oh man. I mean, you sit there and you look like whatever it was 4 or 5 years ago when we had that A, B, C tech. I mean, this is the same thing I used 7, 8 years ago. It just maybe was more defined as we got further and further along to make it a little more user friendly, where I'm not manually typing in numbers. Now I just want to like click a couple boxes and say, God, what if we had our B tech, and whether it be through training or what have you, what if they can become an A tech and they can instead of $95 effective labor rate, what if they can do 110? Does our business support that? Does the stuff that comes in there? And then what does that change as far as our numbers go? I didn't add another tech. I didn't add another body. I just said, gosh, I think that this person is capable of this, and how can I help them do that?
Yeah. No, it's, and like you said, then you can forecast right there. You just go in and make those changes, those expectations, and see what the results are going to be. And then make decisions off of that. It looks like we have quite a few people who are asking if you guys could share some of that stuff in the chat there. So you must have made an impact on folks that are looking for that type of solution.
So with that scheduler, so can me and I think what we've determined for sure today is that Neil and I should be exclusive rights to determining an auto vital scheduler. Is that what it kind of came out to?
I mean,
that's what I'm hearing. I don't know. I don't think Uva's not online. He's doing his breakout, so he can't oppose us. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Yeah, we're here.
Yeah, that scheduler, man. Yeah, we have a lot of ideas for that. I've harped on you guys about that, but even if it just for every job I sold, put the labor units on the schedule somewhere and then let me assign it, it skips one step and removes an opportunity for error if I forget to put something on the schedule. But it is just, it's part, we're used to it. It's part of the process now, and it's totally worth it.
Yes.
What point of sale are you using, Neil?
We had Mitchell, which does have a basic scheduler, and I know it's gotten better over the years. But we're not doing that.
That was kind of like, you didn't seem proud, like.
Say that again?
You didn't seem too proud of that, putting that out there. Kind of like, whatever. It's just somebody I dated back in the day. No, as far as we use Protractor and what we use our writer before. I mean, you can make this stuff work with any of the programs, but the reason I asked is we started with Protractor, we create a new work order as soon as the person calls. We haven't just been putting on the scheduler, we've actually been creating that like work order and putting that tile on there. I think it gives the advisor the opportunity to maybe make a note for themselves on their own scheduler if they can't create the work order right then and there, but they can do it by the time the day ends and prep the next day so that when that customer comes in there, now you have the oil change, now you have the brake concern notes and everything like that already created. All right, let me grab your keys and I'm going to bring it right back to a technician, and we're going to jump on it right away rather than that minute or two of creating the work order. So I wasn't sure if you did that in Mitchell as well.
without actually, I don't know if we tried to do it, but we do that. Our parts manager builds, he's like he's like the back end service advisor. We call him a parts guy, but he does so much more than that. He does create all of the orders and orders parts for everything at least the day before. So it is really nice having that information loaded. You're totally right.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. Cause I was talking to like, even just like the tile creation of the auto vitals for them to get it on their tablet. They won't get it because we haven't assigned a technician. We've assigned a service advisor. We haven't assigned a technician, so it hasn't created that tile on auto vitals. But as soon as we get the customer to come in, that day, now we assign a technician, and then that action creates the tile on their tablet and on our today's vehicle page. So it's literally just, the work order is already created with all the jobs and such. We just assigned a technician, and now there isn't those extra steps of doing the jobs and what have you, of getting it prepped to even get it on the tile. And that might be that, for shops that aren't potentially doing something like that, that might be that 2 or 3 minutes that makes a difference in efficiency and production. Just think about your car count, 2 or 3 minutes here and there. I mean, that's, at the end of the week, that's 4, 5, 6 hours plus of these little 2 and 3 minutes.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, it all increments, right? I mean, you gain back that minute and you do it each and every time, and it adds up to hours, and it adds up to, depending on the time frame, it adds up to a lot of money that you're putting back into the operation where it belongs. Instead of letting some of that stuff slip through, and it's all right there. I mean, this was really a brilliant panel, because I think some of the insights that you guys have shown, as far as how you're looking at it from a scheduling perspective, how you're looking at it from a KPI perspective, and then how you're tracking it through that big picture. I think it's given a lot of, I can see the reaction in the chat, and I think it's given a lot of people some food for thought. And really what it is to say, try it out, right? Implement it and test it. And nobody's asking you to marry it. You just have to try it and see how it works for you. And then I'm sure, folks can reach out to you for questions. Maybe, Adam, if you could, how can folks get a hold of you if they have some questions about either the way that you're running the scheduler or your production sheet?
Yeah, for sure. So I just typed a note in there on the chats. For anyone wanting the spreadsheet, please just send me a message on Facebook or send an email. Whatever your preference would be, I'm totally good at that. My preference would probably be the Facebook message, because then it stays on my phone until I clear it out, kind of thing. Yeah. Whereas the email can kind of get buried a little bit. So would love to send a message that way. You're also creating a connection. Not that email isn't a connection, but we'll probably have a friend request. You'll probably see, my wife and kids and the business and different posts like that. And then I'll see yours as well. And just like Neil today, I didn't for anyone that thinks Neil and I know each other, we don't. I've never talked to him before. Sure. But it's great. We're 2 completely different shops that are on completely different parts of the country, and we're doing a lot of things that are very similar. I'm sure he's very successful in his business, and we are in our own right as well. But there's just like little things that we didn't plan this. Like, I didn't know that he's using a Google Calendar, but he's doing that same thing. We didn't plan that we were going to get Uber prep. It's just the way it kind of works out. So by creating those connections and that networking part of it, all you're doing is giving yourself the opportunity to learn from each other. And I look at it as like anybody that's going to friend request me, maybe, hopefully I'll learn something from them as well. But nonetheless, create another connection.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And don't be shy. And so reach out. Neil's put his information in the chat for you also. So if you have questions, just reach out, say hi to him. Like you said, friend him on Facebook, if you're not in the forum and you're not active, you should be, even if you're lurking. And I'm sure, matter of fact, I was talking to some folks earlier, they were telling me, gosh, I finally kind of took the plunge and started participating. I've been lurking for almost 2 years, and you're going to get that. You're going to get benefits, and you're going to get a lot of information, and you're going to learn some stuff and see some different perspectives, but you really get the value out of it when you get into the arena, and you start throwing those jabs, right? Those ideas out there, and let them get beat up, let them get mocked, let them get fired. Who cares, right? Because really at the end of the day, you're looking at it from a different perspective, from somebody who's walking in different shoes. and you can see how that may apply to you and make those determinations from there. But that conversation and that debate is what really we look back on and we say, oh, now we have a much better perspective on how this solution needs to work, right? We weren't able to think about or didn't have enough experience with this situation. We're looking over here on this side and we're building a solution for this guy, but I can understand where this one's coming from, And so it really helps us to kind of see the bigger picture and look at it from every perspective so that we deliver a better solution to you. And it's going to work for Adam, and it's going to work for Neil, and it's going to work for you. And it doesn't matter what your operation is. And that there's so much kind of flexibility in the program, really, if you think about it from that perspective, that you can whittle it down and you can build the process that fits for you. You might take a little bit about what Adam's doing, and a little bit from what Neil's doing, and a little bit what Bill Connor's telling you, and Kevin Allen or Kim Hickey is telling you, and then you're gonna put that into the process that works for you. Then you're just going to test it, and you test it rigorously, right? You've got the business control panel, so you can't hide from it. If it's working or if it's not. Who probably is the person you need to be having some talk with, because that's where it's not working, or it's systemic. And hey, out with the and here's the new process, and we test it again, and we just do that until we hit on what's going to work. And you can see the results. And we're talking with Adam, and he's talking to us about going from 300K to 2 million in this stretch of time, and all the hoops that he had jumped through and all. But each and every time he learned something new. It didn't always work, right? But you know what? He kept what worked, and he just kept adding to it. And I bet you, Adam, it probably feels like it was yesterday. And like that, your business has gone from a good solid business to, just a flagship, a leader in the industry.
I can't, I'm humbled by you saying that.
Again, that didn't lie. You know what I mean?
I appreciate it very much. When you reflect back on those years and everything, I would say it's funny that I was probably more stressed out within the business when we were doing $300,000 in sales than what I am right now in $2 million. When you're looking at like the level of payroll expenses and different things like that we have right now, it's me 10 years ago, I'd be like, oh my God, that's like a scary thing that it's probably never going to be a possibility. But it's all those little things along the way and those goals that you set for yourself. Literally, the numbers that I have on that spreadsheet is exactly what we used back when we were doing $300,000. It's just a little prettier now. So If you take that and you really break it down for your shop and you set yourself a little goal, there's a spot where you can put in like effective labor rate and maybe jump that, like you have to take the data that you had before. If you don't do that, this is all meaningless. So you really have to look at what you've been doing historically and then add just a little bit to it. Add an hour here for this technician a week. Add a couple hours here. Our goal last year, we had 195 hours a week is what we averaged as far as like sales. Our goal this year is 220. We have 4 techs doing it. And can I think that 4 techs can do 3 more hours a week, a piece or whatever it might be, 4 more hours a week? Yeah, I think they can, and I think that they believe they can as well. If they can't, we've reached our peak. Now add that extra tech and whatever it might fit to your business. So this, like I said, it's literally those numbers are the things that you really should focus on every single week, and then make it realistic goals. Like you can't go from $500,000, type in a number in a spreadsheet, and then think you're going to hit $1 million in 1 year. It's just not going to happen. But if you create little stepping stones along the way, you give yourself the possibility, if you stay focused on it, to hit those numbers.
No, that's incredible. It's super impressive and so motivational for folks. And they're blowing it up in chat. Thank you. Deanna Remmel's asking, did you share your contact info, Adam? And yeah, Deanna, he's got it up a couple entries above where you type that in. And then she's also saying that, where did it go?
John Long's asking if you can check me out. No, I'm here to stay, buddy. I'm taking over the next day.
John's making his presence known and saying you can go ahead and leave now because the
phones are blowing up, John. I'm sorry.